Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens. We are honored to have with us today United States Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, representing the 8th Congressional District of Illinois. Representative Krishnamoorthi, you serve on the Committee on Oversight and Reform, House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Task Force to Combat Heroin Epidemic, Anti-Youth Vaping Caucus, and more recently, you serve on the House Select Subcommittee on Coronavirus Crisis. Congressman, we thank you so much for your service to our country and for being here with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Representative Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much for being here. Can you share with us what inspired you to go into public service and how has your journey been like so far?
Well, thank you for asking the question. My journey inspired me to go into public service. I was born in India, came to this country when I was 3 months old, and things were going well until my family hit the economic skids. And we, thankfully, thanks to the American government's generosity, we were allowed to move into public housing and food stamps. And I spent about half of my early childhood in those two programs. And, later on, my father finished his studies and got an excellent job in Peoria, Illinois. And so we moved there, and that's, when my parents bought their first proper home, and that's where they educated their two sons in great public schools, and that's where they entered the middle class. And pretty much every night at the dinner table, my father would say, think of the greatness of this country, and whatever the two of you do, just make sure that you make sure that this government is there for the next families who need it. And so that became the North Star of my personal compass. Fast forward, I'm now in the U.S. Congress, and I can, try to fulfill that mission statement assigned to me by my parents, which is try to make sure this country is there for the next families who need it. And during this pandemic, I feel that is a sacred calling that I've been trying to fulfill.
And Honorable Congressman Krishnamoorthi, we thank you and our Congress for your hard work during these difficult times in passing historic bills with historic amounts and at historic speeds to meet the health and economic needs of our country. How has the pandemic changed your life as a lawmaker, and what are some of the keys to your success in navigating solutions during these unprecedented times?
Well, it's really changed the nature of, meeting with my constituents. Now it's primarily it's virtual, it's over the phone, it's by Zoom. Occasionally I will meet with them, but we try to do so outdoors or try to be very safe, as safe as we can be. But the amount of work has gone up because people really need a lot of help, and so we try to do everything we can to come to their assistance. In terms of keys to kind of approaching the challenges we have right now, it's listening, and then it's trying to address the real needs of businesses and individuals, and then it's being persistent in trying to push legislation or to work with the existing agencies to help them. And if we do that, then we usually, meet with success.
And as a member of the Select Subcommittee on Coronavirus Crisis, what are some of the ways that youth can help your efforts in ending this pandemic?
Well, we have some oversight with regard to the vaccine rollout, as well as economic relief and the stimulus programs. So we have to do everything we can to make sure there's momentum in the rollout. 25% of Americans have now received at least one shot. I think about 15% have now been fully vaccinated, and those numbers are climbing every day. We need to root out waste, fraud, and abuse from our small business programs so that much needed dollars go to those who are deserving. And we need to reopen the economy safely. I think those are some of the things that we need to do and the committee is dedicated to doing it.
And with my recent initiative, COVID Vaccine Notify, an online platform that notifies people facing homelessness and those who are uninsured on when the vaccine becomes available to them in their area, I noticed several obstacles to vaccination, whether that may be people with lack of technology to sign up or not being associated with any medical system, seniors lacking transportation, people being skeptical about the vaccine, and a general mistrust in the healthcare system. Congressman, with your current focus on vaccine equity, how are you working to tackle these multiple issues and what are some of the solutions that you are proposing?
Well, I think it starts with increasing the supply. If we can, ratchet up the supply significantly, then we can help all these different groups and the general population without necessarily sacrificing, helping one at the expense of another. So that's the first thing. The second is we really need to, look at those groups that have a susceptibility to developing COVID-19 and then have the highest rates of morbidity or the highest death rates, or who develop the most severe cases, and get additional supplies into those communities. So just as an example, Black and brown communities do tend to get harder hit. And so even as we're trying to figure out why, we have to get vaccine into those areas ASAP so that we can, prevent further incidents and the development of more severe or complicated cases.
And Congressman Krishnamoorthi, I think that it's wonderful you're able to sort of point out some of those inequities exist and looking for and already working towards the solutions to be able to fight these inequities. I think that's definitely wonderful at times like these where we as a whole are actively combating against those inequities. And Representative Krishnamurthy, you are a true champion for youth, whether that's as on the Youth Vaping Caucus or as your continual work in supporting youth. How do you think that members of Congress can be more interactive with the teens in their community and have rich and meaningful partnerships with them?
I think that youth and others can have a tremendous impact. One area where, older folks have a problem, for instance, is navigating technology, figuring out where vaccine supplies are located. And, our youth are incredibly adept at, using that technology, using social media, using online platforms to locate the vaccine, and then helping, for instance, seniors and others access that supply or get their shots. I would love to see, people like you and others form almost like a youth corps, vaccine locator corps, where you basically almost serve as shepherds for older people who are looking for help. And you're like, okay, well, no problem. I'll help you. And I'll be there with you every step of the way until you get vaccinated. You probably do that already for your parents and maybe your grandparents and your family. And then helping others is probably the next logical step.
Representative Krishnamurthy, we thank you so much for your leadership in fighting this pandemic, fighting for the health of our youth and the value that they bring to our country. And thank you so much for your time today and answering all of our questions.
Well, thank you. And, you're doing a tremendous job in asking the right questions and trying to get help for people in need. I think that the more that you do this, the greater impact you're going to have. And as a consequence, more people are going to be healthier and come out of this pandemic not only alive, but hopefully prosperous and ready to tackle the next challenges in a very productive manner.
Thank you.